Hello, and welcome to Unsheathed with your hosts, Kyle Gold and Cam Hirosaki. We hope that you enjoy the program. Please stick around afterwards. There'll be cake and blowjobs.
Hi, welcome to Unsheathed number 41. I am, as always, Foxy Kyle Gold.
And I am Slippery Cam Hirosaki.
And we're coming at you with another round of questions. This week, focusing on writing process again. We're almost, the month of June is almost upon us.
I know, May went by fast.
Yeah, it really kind of did. Somewhere, FA United is going on.
Yep.
And Rocket City Fur Meet is going on.
Yep.
And just down the road, BayCon is going on.
Then next weekend, isn't What the Fur going on in Montreal?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Wow. A convention for every weekend.
There you go. For all seasons.
I believe there are some majors are being presented at FA United, but we have not heard anything from our sources on the ground there, so maybe that's happening tomorrow. Not quite the end of the weekend as we record this. By the time you hear it, they will
hopefully
have been presented.
Announced. I got my Webby Little Paws Cross for X.
Yay.
I can win as part of a group.
Yeah, we're hoping it does well. As far as our personal projects, I don't have much to report. I'm still working through the edit and draft of the Out of Position sequel, but I think I might have a title for it, which is exciting.
Oh, that's good.
Let people know when that happens. But Hirosaki-san has some
news. I have great news. Yeah, I finished the my first draft of my upcoming novel called Summerhill. It needs a lot of work. It's not very good. The main character's story arc is not really very clear, and there's a lot of character motivation in there that doesn't make sense, and I need to borrow foosball's hacksaw to use a phrase there, and just, really... It's going to be a few months before that sort of sees more of the light of day, but I got a draft done, which was an excuse for me to go out and eat raw fish and ply myself with alcohol.
Congratulations. Absolutely, that's an accomplishment. And
Kit has upgraded me from wine to like a sort of strawberry mint lemonade margarita thing. It's really good. Except I'm pretty sure it's not tequila. I thought it was vodka. It is vodka. I didn't know if it was vodka or rum. I couldn't taste it over the delicious fruit flavors.
I don't know if there's a name for that with vodka. I think if it was rum, it'd be a daiquiri.
I think it's just a spiked frozen lemonade in its current form. It's
vodka
delicious.
Lemonade.
That's what it is.
Vodka lemonade. But yeah, congratulations on the first draft. I'm sure Foos will lend you his hacksaw with great relish. The motion, not the condiment.
Not grape relish.
Not
that
grape.
would be. I bet if you had that on like a dessert type thing, that might not be bad.
Yeah. Although all I can think now is, why is he tying them to the radiator?
Look at the way she's dressed. She's totally asking for it.
What? All right. Well, let's get to some questions. And so our first question comes from faithful listener Torrendane. He says, do you find that your environment influences or inhibits your creative flow? Do you have music that you listen to or silence? If you do, what kind of music? Purely instrumental, free of vocals, lyrics which might distract you, or does that not affect you?
Environment definitely affects me. I can't write at home most of the time. Like 98% of the times where I'm writing, I need to be out of the house. If I'm in the house, I won't get any writing done.
I can kind of write anywhere.
I wish I could.
Kit has actually exclaimed that I may be a mutant of some sort because he's seen me writing while there's a TV program on, and I'm also reading a book when I'm not writing, and then taking breaks to play solitaire games. And
I don't know how you do that either.
But yeah, I can write pretty much anywhere. I like to have music on. I had a playlist called Writing, which was just instrumentals, but honestly, any music that I know well enough to be able to tune it out is just fine.
Yeah, I usually listen to music too. It doesn't matter to me if it's instrumental or if it has lyrics. Mainly because lyrics don't really distract me anyway. I just sort of hear the human voice as part of the music.
Yeah.
And what I listen to vaguely depends on the mood of the story I'm writing, but there's no real hard and fast rule.
Yeah, same
Lady
with me.
Gaga always works.
I think
Your
that
mileage may
statement's-
vary.
That statement's true in many contexts.
Well, hey. But yeah, so I think that should hopefully answer that, at least for us. Again, your mileage may vary. Moving on here. Hello, Kyle Gold and Hirosaki-san. First, thanks for the podcast. I want to add a follow-up to my last email. First, the baller named Zitcat was given to me by Buck Hopper, so it's okay for me to use it. That's good. We're going to be running those by him to make sure he gives them his stamp of approval. Second, I love the last show where Kyle read his unpublished story. This must be a couple weeks old. He has a really lovely speaking voice,
believe it
similar
was.
to Savern from Notcast. Do you,
Wow.
I don't think
That's
you
high
sound that
praise.
much like Savern. And
I guess
Savern,
when I'm doing my Savern voice, maybe I can hear a certain resemblance.
yeah, maybe. Now to a question. I have begun writing a film noir style story for my Sarah and Dorothy cases. I have a character who is French, a spicy, dangerous cat for whom my two main characters will be interacting. What I am wondering is, should I, and possibly how, put the French-spoken language into the conversation? This Molly, the female cat, can speak English, but I think it would be interesting to add some French phrases or words to throw off my characters. If I do this, should it be written in English with special markers, such as indicating foreign words, or should I just use a translator and write the actual words in French? Anyway, once again, love the show. Your Eastern Washington listener, Running Cat.
Well, peppering your conversation with foreign words is a good way to establish a character's ethnicity, but I would say don't overdo it.
Yeah. Certainly don't put any key dialogue into a language that your reader isn't going to understand.
There are a couple kind of stock French phrases that everybody knows, and you can get away with having your French characters say things like merci and
right
zut alors.
But you run into a high risk of making them sound like stereotypes after a while, where it's like sacre bleu, you know, and you just sort of run into like almost cartoonish.
French people do not say sacre bleu, by the way.
I'm willing to bet they don't.
Do not use that. In general, I would recommend not going through a translator and using foreign words if you're not familiar with the language yourself.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
I see people try to do that with Japanese all the time.
I bet you do.
Does not. You can't just swap words and grammar one for one with English. That's not how Japanese works. Trust me.
And there's nuances where if she's a native French speaker and you're not going to be able to write her dialogue convincingly. I would say if there's things that she's saying in French and you want the readers to understand what they are, do that syntax you have in your email with the angle brackets indicating foreign words. If you just want to give it sort of a French flair, read up on how French people speak English.
Yeah.
Kind of the cadences and nuances, and, don't fall back on the, the book, she is very pretty.
Yeah. That must drive you nuts.
It's really, I can't even think of anything to compare it to. It's like people saying foxes want to have their mouths open all the time, and,
I was just thinking, I was going to say something like, it would be like if people were like, oh, hello, honorable Ottersa, like that sort of thing. But
right.
no,
like
you had to go right for the sex, didn't you?
Well, come on. we had to get the blowjob reference in here because none of these letters are quite that saucy this time.
One of them coming up kind of is. But we'll get there when we get there.
We will get there when we get there. So that's the recommendation. Thank you for the compliments on the speaking voice in the podcast. We are very glad you're enjoying it, and I personally love reading my stories, so I'll hopefully keep doing that.
I hear that people are entertained by my squeaky indignance.
Are you saying you are not?
Are you not entertained?
Have you finished listening to that podcast, by the way?
I got about 10 minutes into it, and I can't bring myself to listen to more, because I know what's coming. And it's just like, oh, poor me.
All right, well, hope that helps, and good luck with your film noir story.
Yeah, good luck.
Hey there, Fox and Otter, and any hypothetical guest you may have. We are guestless today, sadly. I just wanted to write in about your non-writing and or artist listeners and what they get out of the podcast. As an artist, there are definitely things to get. First and foremost, I just like having you guys coming through the speakers when I'm at the drawing table or easel, as it makes me feel like I'm in a studio or at a con with other people talking about their art. More fundamentally, I find that the creative process, though physically different, is very similar mentally. What you say in terms of setting aside regular time to work, prioritizing creation over goofing off, and self-promotion and getting your name out there cross over to visual art almost identically. Also, the idea of practice, repetition, building up to larger projects, and editing are things that artists are familiar with. Practice is obvious, and it's also fairly apparent that most successful large art projects and comics are done by people with lots of experience under their belts. Artists edit too, and our version of a first draft is the study. Different artists do different levels of studies, but it's basically a practice piece before doing a finished piece. It could be as simple as a stick figure drawing, but personally I almost never pick up a paintbrush or chisel unless I've done a fully worked out pencil or ink drawing, or more likely 2 or 3. That way you figure out what works and what doesn't before investing your time and materials. One final thing before I get back to the drawing board. Since you guys are sharing listener projects, my current project is badgering for submissions to Roar Volume 3. Later on, this will turn into a big editing project, but for the moment, and until the end of June, beginning of July, I'm looking for stories to publish. Since I'm sure lots of your listeners would like to get published, feel free to take a look at the submission guidelines at www.baddogbooks.com. That's all one word, BADDOGBOOKS. Buck B-Cut Turner.
Wow, the way you rattled off that URL had such lovely cadence to it. It's nice and poetic. And
The way I said it or the way I spelled it?
the way you spelled it out like that, with that nice little swishy little rhythm to your voice.
And to my tail.
That's right. Oh, you always have that.
So, yeah, thanks for the letter. Definitely, I mean, that stuff crosses over. You said it, as well as we could, so.
Yeah. Although I sort of, the idea of, not ever actually even picking up, anything with like a paintbrush or whatnot until you've got all the stuff, inked out, it sort of makes me wish that there was an easier way to just sketch a story other than you still have to put all the words down first. But,
well, I mean, there's outlining. And
yeah,
honestly, because the writing of a story is not a huge investment of materials or anything.
that's true.
I don't feel the need to get my story more set down, finished before I start writing it. I have done outlines on occasion, but mostly what they end up doing is showing me how far I've diverged from what my idea of the story used to be.
I have thought, especially as of late, that I'm really glad that I don't live in the age of typewriters.
Yes.
I just wouldn't write. If that were the case, I'd have given up a long time ago.
Yeah, that would make things really difficult.
Because I'm so slow and plodding and finicky with my words, and I change them so frequently as I'm writing them, and before I even get to the end of a paragraph, if I had to just type out like a page fresh from scratch, I would have just said, F this.
Yeah, and a lot of the guidelines, we've talked about this before too. I think a lot of the guidelines for writers are holdovers from the time when writing was all typewriter. It makes sense when you think about it to just forge ahead with your first draft and don't worry about edits, don't worry about anything else, just get the basic book down, and then go back through what you've got, do a really, really critical editing job, and then retype the whole thing. In the age of word processors, though, you can write a paragraph, and then if you're not happy with it, just make alterations right away. You can delete something and move it to somewhere else in the story, see how it reads, move it back, take it away. I mean, part of what I'm doing with the novel right now is just I moved one scene from earlier in the story to later in the story. I took out a character mostly, cutting bits here and there and adding new stuff in, and it's really easy to do.
Yeah. I'm going to get to have a lot of fun with that with my own little project soon enough. But first I have to get back to my secret project, as I promised everyone on Twitter. The secret project, which I previously promised I would start back up again on before MFF, which was half a year ago. So, yeah, I will do that next, I promise. Now that I have another I was going to say, now that I can say it publicly, I can hold myself to it, but I said it publicly last time.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
We'll work on getting
this time I mean it.
We'll work on getting you to work on that.
Yeah, we'll figure out ways to get my rudder to flap in that direction. Moving on.
Again, as Confused says, it's all about motivation, prioritization, the fact that, and I think what's interesting is you would think that because writing is more easy now, because of the word processing and all that, that more people would do it. And I think more people do. But I also think that because it is so easy, a lot of people don't take it as seriously.
Yeah, I can see that.
If that makes sense. So it's kind of like, in the old days, if you were going to write, you sat down at a typewriter and wrote out your page. And nowadays, if you kind of think like, well, I'll just write this down and then I'll come back to it later because it's real easy.
Yeah.
But nowadays, there's also way more distractions and stuff,
Right. Well, like if you're going to be an artist, you need all this materials, and if you're doing digital art, you need special equipment and this and that. If you want to write, all you need is a computer, which we all already have anyway.
Right.
So, yeah. But next email, Dear Water Fox and Land Otter. I was wondering if the two of you would like to comment on the differences between writing good erotica and, as some of your fellow podcasters have called it, type fucking. I've found in my own experience that not only are they two very separate skills, but the way that you write, the pacing, how long you spend on actions, and so on are all different. I found myself trying to write erotica the way I play online, and the results, yeah. I was curious about what thoughts, opinions, or experiences the pair of you, or others if you have a guest, may have along these lines. Shakal Draconis, Black Panther. Wow, everyone's all about our guests.
I know. I'm really amused now that people
Yeah.
kind of think that it might be a regular occurrence that we have guests.
I guess that means people like them.
Yeah, I think we'll
Yeah.
we'll have to have someone back next week. Maybe we'll drag NotTube in here for
Oh, okay.
podcasting. We haven't had him on in a while.
That's true. But yeah, I think that the point here that, writing erotica and writing online RP scenes is very different. Mm-hmm. For one, in that case, you're basically writing for an audience of two.
Right.
And it's all very immediate in the moment, and things like pacing and whatnot, you're not subject to narrative constraints, you're subject to how long do I want this to take.
Right. And pacing is a factor.
Oh yeah.
But you
especially
don't,
at 2 a.m.
you don't go into it with an idea of this is the way it's going to pace. You kind of settle on it with the other party.
Yeah.
And
that's something you feel out because you don't have sole control over it.
Right. If you're doing it right.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just don't type back to them.
No, I was thinking about a time way, way, way back when I was a pup of legal age, but still fairly young, and just
that look it's giving you right there is distracting me. Sorry.
No, it was just very amusing because I was in an online role play with a couple people, and one of them just kind of in the middle ended his own session. I'll just say it that way, without regard to what the other two were doing, which really amused me quite a bit. I was like, "You're really not about the role play part of this. You're just, doing this to play the home version of your game."
Roll the dice. Double sixes.
100 furries surveyed.
Survey
Top
set.
5 role plays on the board. Anyway, I'm very sad actually that I missed the furry feud from. I think wasn't it Jacoby who ran it at FurCon a couple years back?
I think it was.
I always thought that would have been really funny.
Because I always love Family Feud.
Oh yeah. Favorite game show though? The Pyramid.
Ooh, are you digging back for that one?
You could. Well, I remember when it was the $25,000 pyramid. Later, it was the $100,000.
I think I remember it when it was 25.
It started as 10, but I've only seen that on old
oh,
reruns.
yeah, that was way before my time.
But yeah, Pyramid pyramid was a great one. Mm-hmm. That would translate well to furry, too.
Okay, they've got swishy tails with stripes. Oh, wait.
Skunks. What is a skunk? No, wait, wrong game show. Damn it.
Harder. Faster.
Things
you say to a wolf. Things you stick your knot in. Oh my god, we have to make this happen. This is the best idea we've ever had.
Maybe we'll do this for our live show.
Oh god. I am a quiver with anticipation about this. This is like the happy fun version of what was happening to me at Unsheathed number 4.
Oh, I have to share with our listeners, in case they don't follow your Twitter, that apparently Hirosaki-san had a very filling meal last night, and he tweeted, "Man, I've not been stuffed this full since the events of Unsheathed Presents number 4." Which brought me many moments of delight, and continues to.
It was certainly a fun night, I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we'll work with Kit on getting a pyramid set up. I mean, if we can put dialogue up on a screen in the room, we can certainly put together a pyramid.
We'll have like the $200 pyramid.
It'll be like, yeah, 200 Fox pyramid. You do that very well for a swimmy creature.
Yeah, we churr and stuff. We make chirpy sounds.
All right, but did we answer his question? Oh, write erotica the way you write on it. Yeah, so it's different. Write it different.
Because really, when you're TSing, you just, wow, that's dating myself right there.
Parenthetically, I think I know the other podcast he's thinking of, and I think it was only people who wrote in to the show who called it type fucking.
I've called it that.
I think you might have called it that in a letter to them, but
maybe. But yeah, I mean, I think when he's talking about like how long you spend on different actions and whatnot, if like sex is part of a story, then there's pacing that falls in with that. If you're literally just type fucking, just like, hey, my character and your character having sex, there's no need to worry about how this fits in with the greater narrative, because there isn't one usually.
Right. And the only drive in a type fucking session is getting to the next point.
Yes.
Whereas in a story, the sex fits into the larger context of things.
Right.
And you really have to keep track of that. Unless it's just a pure erotica story.
Right.
Which really is.
They have merits.
Yeah. I mean, pure erotica is basically just, I never believed these stories were true, but one day,
You want to read the last email, Kyle?
Sure. Hello, Foxy Butt, and SOB, short for Slippery Otter Butt.
I was going to say, thank you for clarifying what that stood for. I was going to get offended.
I think you still might. I actually have a question and a request for you. First off, I want to say I love your podcast. It really has gotten me back into the thought process of writing. You see, back some years ago, I thought of myself as something of a writer. Unfortunately, I lost interest in a story I was writing and gave up on writing due to lack of interest. I recently got a private message on FA from a fan of my story series. It made me consider picking it back up. Do you guys have any recommendation on how to start writing again after an extended time? As for my request, can you two give me 2 things each to write into a story? My favorite genre is medieval era fantasy or modern romance. I really appreciate you taking the time to read my email, and I wish you guys luck in your writing endeavors. Aden. Insert clever comment or pun about being a fox here. Okay. Done. Well, I'm not going to say it. How to start writing again after an extended time away? Do it.
Yeah.
Just do it every day. Don't stop.
Share.
Yep. Not much else. I mean, the more you do it, the better you get.
Yeah.
As long as you allow yourself to learn from it. And there are people who've been writing for a long time and have not gotten better, but that's my recommendation there. As for the request, 2 things each to write into a story. I don't know which genre, but let's each think of 2 things to give him.
Okay.
I'm going to say a secret message that went astray.
Ooh. Okay, I like that. I was going to say a vial of poison.
Also a good one. I'm trying to think of things that would be interesting, but I guess really we can just throw anything in there. I'm trying to think of things that would fit in either setting.
A naked raccoon. There you
Naked
go.
raccoon? Well, he didn't actually say if it was a erotica story.
It doesn't need to be erotica for somebody to be naked.
That's true.
It could be comedy. It could be farce. Documentary.
All right. And then for the last one, I will say a moonlight dance.
Okay. You have to be all classy.
It could be a naked dance.
Just a forbidden dance.
The lambada.
Yes. I'm gonna say that like none of our listeners are gonna get that reference, but I knew you would.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, I was around when that movie came out, and it was dumb then.
Yes, it was.
Well, we burned through like 5 more emails. You guys need to send us more.
Yeah.
We are going to do this editing project, and we've had a request from Foosball to help. So I don't know if that
Captain
makes...
Hacksaw himself.
Yeah, I don't know if that makes you guys more or less interested in sending things in, but...
Remember, he edits out of hate.
Yes. He wants to prove to you how bad you are, so...
It's his
He's
raison
good at
d'etre.
it. Somebody wrote in to ask about the length requirements for the writing
6
sample.
inches. Oh, wait.
I anticipated you there. And don't be sizist.
I'm not.
You just were.
It was a joke.
I would say send in as long of a sample as you like. We will not read all of it if it is beyond a certain length, but what we will do is pick out a part that we think we can edit well, and then we'll do that. So, I mean, if there's a specific part that you want us to edit that's about 3 paragraphs long, maybe?
Yeah.
Depending on the size of the paragraph, I would say...
And yeah, that's kind of pushing it. Like, yeah.
500 words, maybe 250 to 500-ish.
Yeah.
Something in there.
Don't give us Proust-length paragraphs.
Right. Or Joseph Conrad. But, so if there's a specific passage you want us to edit that's that length, send it in alone. If there's just a story and you want us to take a look and pick a piece out of it, then send us that. And there's pluses and minuses to both. If you just send us a story, then we can pick the part that we want to edit, but then we'll also have the rest of the story as context to see what you're trying to do with it. If you just send us a piece on its own, then the piece has to stand on its own, but that'll be the piece we'll look at. And again, we're just going to pick 1 or probably 2.
Yeah.
But, feel free to send it in.
Don't send entire stories in on the hope that we're just going to go both completely edit your entire story, because we're not going to do that.
All right.
I will dash your hopes and dreams right now, as Foosball would want me to do.
He'll be so proud of us. So send in stuff, and the email address is unsheathedpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to get in touch with either of us, I'm Kyle on FA, and Kyle Gold on LiveJournal, and Kyle Gold on Twitter.
And I'm Cam Hirosaki on all 3 of those.
You're much more consistent than I am.
Yeah.
Here we go into June. I don't think, actually, since we have June stuff coming up, I don't think either of us is going to be at Anthrocon.
No. Sadly not. I was there last year. I did a book signing last year.
But I'm going to at least put in an appearance or 2 down at San Diego Comic-Con, which should be fun. And I'll be at San Diego Comic-Con. I will be at Rocky Mountain FurCon about 2 weeks later. And after that, I think we will both be at Rainforest.
Yes.
And that's our upcoming schedule.
My upcoming schedule is several months and then Rainforest.
Yeah, we'll see. We might be able to drag you out somewhere.
Maybe. We'll have to see about that. See how busy I am writing and editing. between Summerhill and the Secret Project.
True. And we do have to figure out when and where our live show is going to be. And we'll work with Kit on that. And we promise we will let you all know once we do pick a date.
Yeah, I had a few people ask me, hey, have you determined where and when you're doing that? I'm like, I promise we'll tell you on the show. We're not going to not tell people where and when it's going to be. That would kind of kill the point.
That would, right. The whole purpose of a live show is to have people show up. So we will tell you well in advance.
Pyramid may or may not appear.
Oh, I think it has to now.
It better.
Kit is sighing in resignation. It's like, what the hell are you two people doing?
The Yifty $1,000 pyramid.
Oh, you had to go there.
I'm a terrible person.
But at least you didn't say pyramid.
Oh, no. You are a horrible creature.
All right, we're going to sign off before this degenerates into just us laughing at in-jokes back and forth.
Stay happy with your writing, folks.
Keep going, keep writing, and right into the show. I think we asked you for a bunch of stuff last show, and hopefully by the time this appears, we'll have gotten some responses to that.
Yeah. Do what we tell you.
Yes. Obey the fox and otter. And have a good night.